Hi, this is Misha, and today I have another pretty uncommon to maybe outright rare Japanese gun for you. This is a very late war substitute Type 99, and this model was manufactured in Korea as part of Series 40. And is often nicknamed the Jinsen Special or the Jinsen Special Last Ditch. And it has some unique features that really only the Jinsen arsenal used late in the war. Now, Jinsen is really a Japanese or Americanized Japanese version of Incheon in Korea. And just for comparison, I also brought out a couple of my other last ditches. This is my very late production, Series 27, Tokyo Juki Kogyo. This is a so-called rope pole, and it does not have a front sling swivel. It's also a very late war production gun. And a more standard substitute last ditch 99. This is a Nagoya. I think this is a Series 10. It might be an 11, but I believe it's still a 10. It's a late 10. As you see, it has sling swivels and everything. Let's start with it for comparison. We have a pretty roughly turned barrel on the lathe. We have a simple welded, if you see it's rounded on the top here, barrel band. It's pinned to the barrel, so it's pretty permanent. Simple band, bayonet lug, no hole for a cleaning rod, simple front sight without protectors. This is a separate piece, which is correct. Then back here, and this is just held in by the barrel bands, we have a short upper handguard. We have a welded on the bottom here band. As you see, it's solid. We have a typical sling swivel. We have a simplified Peep rear sight. Notice there's this block, and it's at the rear of the block here for the Peep. We have the mum. This still has dust cover grooves, even though it was never issued with a dust cover. Flipping it over, we have a very simplified bolt. The body itself is pretty well unchanged, but now we have a stem welded to it for cocking. Simple cylinder. We have a safety, which is just a welded blob. Simplified stock. Still two-piece. Still has the wooden butt plate. It's pretty famous with these. And we have a single screw rear swivel here. That's a pretty standard last ditch gun. Now we get to this rope hole, and our biggest differences are, of course, the rope hole itself lacking a sling swivel, rear sight still the same, and this does not have the grooves for the dust cover. This one also does not have a full serial number or anything on it, which is sometimes a late war gun from TJK. So that's showing a few more late war economies. Most places did not go to the rope pole. Nagoya did, but in Series 11 and 12 only. And that brings us to this Jinsen Special. At first glance, it probably looks like that Nagoya. So the same up here. This is still a separate piece. We have a very roughly turned barrel. And here we have our first difference. This front barrel band is square on the top. Very thick and very square, very flat. It's just welded, a piece of steel is welded across the side to seal it. And we're just kind of squared off all around here. So it's a simplified, just thicker, hastily made barrel band. Likewise, our rear band is a little different. It's a so-called wide band. Now it does have the split in the top, which is kind of harkening back to the early style from the Type 99, but this is a much wider, cruder band than on the other late war guns. It looks to basically be hand hammered in shape. It's very roughly shaped and it's welded together very crudely on the bottom. We do have a sling swivel still. We have the short upper handguard. The rear sight's a little different. If you notice, it's on its own little block here. The block is smaller and it's at the front of the block, which is different from these, where the block kind of comes back and is more inletted. So the rear sight's a little different. Also, some of these had fuller grooves, like this, still cut hand grooves in the stock. Some Jinsen Specials had them, some did not. But they're much cruder cut than any early fuller groove would have been. Like the Series 27, this lacks dust cover grooves, but it does still have a serial. Another very unique feature is the takedown. If you notice, there's no lip on the top here like it would be. Instead, there's a large indent for a thumb. Sorry, it's got a little grease in there, guys, so it goes back a little slow. It's actually kind of good for our purposes, though, to show you. So that's different. The bolt is made basically the same way, but again, very hastily, very crude. It's actually kind of welded on crooked. Still have a welded safety, still have nailed on butt plate, and this actually has the 2-screw style rear swivel, which some factories kept in use. It does have the simplified trigger guard. It's no longer dished out, and it no longer has the relief cuts on each side for the finger to go around the trigger. It's just a simple bent band of steel. So that's also simplified. So as you see, it's a very, very late war gun. Now the Jinsen arsenal was in occupied Korea, which set it apart from the Japanese mainland. And these guns are not common in and of themselves. They were always a little rougher, cruder made. They did make some Type 38s, but when they got to the 99s, they kind of get pretty crude. They started to introduce guns that would be considered Jinsen Specials around serial number 70,000, but not all of them would have all the features. It seems like the one key feature that makes it a Jinsen Special, at least according to a lot of collectors, is this flat, large front barrel band. Some will have the wide bands here, some will have thin, and there'll be other minor variations, like I said, about the grasping grooves in the stock. This one has a serial of just under 92,000, which is very much towards the tail end of production. No one knows exactly when they quit producing these, but it was right around 94,000. For a long time it was thought to only end around 91, 92,000, but a couple of guns over 92,000 have shown up, so it looks like they got to through the 93,000 range and maybe into the 94,000. So this one was made a couple of thousand before the end. and that's why it's probably one of the crude ones. Now, laying these all out, it's interesting because it really shows that not every possible shortcut was taken at every factory. 9 main factories produce the Type 99, and each one kind of adopted its own shortcuts. For example, the row pole, which is definitely a shortcut, never appeared on the Jinsen, but then again the Jinsen barrel band style never appeared on the row poles. And then Nagoya, when you get to series 11, would go to row poles and even delete the grooves for the dust cover, but would never adopt some of the late Jinsen features and so on and so forth. So each arsenal did its own small economies when we're getting into 1945. I just thought we would do this video because there's very, very little out there on the Jinsen Special, and it is definitely a neat gun. This one just came in a batch of guns. I mean, it's crude. That grinds there. I mean, it's very roughly fitted together. I mean, this one hasn't been shot much, but yeah, it still even has a lot of the factory grease in the internals. But they're just one of the very late war guns, showing a different way of economizing. Well, that's about all I can tell you about this critter. 20 some odd thousand existed originally. Who knows how many actually survived to this day. Definitely not 20,000. A lot of them were lost during or after the war, or captured by the Chinese, the Koreans, and repurposed. So not that many survive. And it's definitely an interesting variation. Well, if you enjoy Japanese guns, please check out our other videos. We have quite the playlist on them now. If you like the video, also please click like, and if you haven't already subscribed and could do so, we'd really appreciate that. And also, if you'd like to support us, please check out our Patreon page. This is Misha, and we'll catch you next time.